Brought to you by Penguin.
Not in My Book by Katie Holt. Read by Frankie Corzo.
Fall. People say there's a thin line between love and hate, but with Hunter, it was oceans wide. Excerpt from Untitled by Rosie Maxwell and Aiden Huntington. Chapter 1. My mom used to say if I didn't have anything nice to say, then it was best to say nothing at all. It was typical mom advice, but it became my gospel. It was basically one of the commandments of the South. You know, Southern hospitality and all that. I was almost certain Aiden Huntington's mom had told him the opposite. If you don't have anything nice to say, shout it from the rooftops. Repeat it until you instill in their mind just how worthless they are. It would explain why Aiden felt the need to berate me. Every single class. Sensory details need a lot of work. It was the first thing out of his mouth when it became his turn to offer up thoughts on my chapter. Most people started their comments with one or two nice things and ended with some gentle constructive criticism. But Aiden cut right to the chase and through the heart. He flipped through the pages, his mouth turned down in a frown, like my chapter personally offended him. And the dialogue. I mean, come on. If Rosie, I interrupted. He lifted his eyes to mine, peering at me through his lashes, his brow raised slightly. We've been over this. My name is Rosie. Our professor, Ida, cleared her throat from the front of the room, giving me a dark look. The first rule of workshop? Do not talk during workshop. The writer was required to read their work out loud for the class, who came with prepared notes. And as the class discussed, the writer was to remain silent and take it all in. I shrank back and begrudgingly nodded at Aiden to continue. The semester had only started a few weeks ago, but this had quickly become our routine. When we read Aiden's submissions, we all gave praise and critiques, not insults, mere suggestions. We were always very kind and gently told him what was working and what wasn't. The worst part was that most of the time, his pieces worked. In return, he gave comments that were harsh, yes, but sadly helpful. Aiden had an annoying editorial eye that ended up making everyone around him a better writer. Except when it came to me. This was our second semester doing this dance. He'd done this last semester in our master fiction workshop too. He hadn't cared enough to dig into my work because he didn't think the romance genre was worth his time and didn't care to help me improve. He continued for a few more minutes, saying what he always said about the pieces I submitted. I get this is a romance, but does the love story really have to be the center of the plot? Don't these characters have something better to do than fall in love? What does it even mean to darken your gaze? I stole a glance at Jess, the only other romance writer in the class, from across the workshop table. She rolled her eyes in solidarity with me. As a full-time student, Jess was taking 2 more classes than I was, and I couldn't even imagine how exhausted she must be. I was only part-time, extending my MFA degree for years to be able to even afford NYU. We'd initially bonded over our love for romance last year, and that bond only strengthened this year with Aiden's blatant distaste for our genre. I'd spent all last semester complaining about him, but now that she'd witnessed his brutality toward me, which, funnily enough, she never experienced, she was extra sympathetic. Now whenever I complained about Aiden, she would say, "It's all the pent-up sexual frustration. He probably critiques the length of his partner's moans in bed." Above all else, Aiden dropped the stack of papers onto the wooden desk between us, grimacing as if he couldn't bear to look at them for a minute longer. It falls flat. There's almost no emotion in it.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?